10 o'clock. It's Friday. It's Freya's day, and I'm back. And oh my goodness, what a day! What a day it was yesterday. So I had a big thing I had to do yesterday. I had to go and see some legal people to push everything forward. And the way things are done in this other province is vastly different from anything I've ever run into, ever, 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 ever. And I was supposed to go to black. Hang on. Ready? Let's count in three. Okay, we're gonna go to black. One, two, three. Okay, so hang on a second. Now, part of the problem yesterday may have been that I didn't have coffee first thing in the morning, because you don't, at a certain point in time, you don't have coffee and then get in the car to drive somewhere for 2 hours. You just don't, unless, of course, you've never done it before. And it doesn't occur to you that A plus B equals where's a rest stop. So the plan was to go to bed very early, to get a really good night's sleep, to be really sharp for this meeting yesterday, because it was all the very serious legal stuff that has to happen correctly, unlike the steps that I had taken prior, in order to make sure nothing gets missed, nothing falls by the wayside, nothing comes up to tap you on the shoulder later and say, "Hey, you idiot." And I had every intention of doing that, and the phone rang. Actually, sorry, no, the phone pinged. Old conversation. I'm old school. So the phone pinged very late, and I wasn't going to answer it. And then I thought, oh God, I might as well. It could be anything. And it was something. It was my bank contacting me. Excuse me, I just have a little hair in my eye there. Okay, sorry. It was my bank contacting me, and it was a fraud alert question regarding my credit card. And my bank does this thing. I don't know if anybody else's bank does this. It's very simple and very easy. It says there is suspicious activity. If you recognize a transaction with fill in the blank name, uh, type Y, hit Y. If not, N. So I saw the name and I'd never heard of it, and so I hit N, and then the next immediate thing that came up was call this number, and so I did. And the subject today is ripple effect, and I think it's really important for me to talk about this, as long as we both understand, as long as we all understand, one, as long as we understand that a ripple, as it hits, something else happens. A ripple has a ripple effect, right? And in the months of frantic confusion, I barely used my credit card. I was really buying gas, so debit. Picking up groceries, debit. There was no time for me to luxuriate in purchasing things. And when my friend died and a completely different kind of frantic activity ensued, I was using my credit card more, because there were things I had to pay for. There were things I had to put deposits on. There were things that came up, and the currency preferred was my credit card. And the ripple effect in this is that there was a lot of traffic on my card. And the other ripple effect of this was that I was so preoccupied and so overwhelmed. I had 7 months of complete exhaustion, and then I had the shock and disorientation and grief and loss and more demands on me pragmatically, efficiently, intelligently to take care of things that I had no context, no prior experience with. Every single thing that presented itself to me was foreign. So I stopped doing a lot of things that I normally do. And one of the things that I did not do was routinely check, go online, look at my bank statement, look at my credit card activity, look at my debit activity to see if it was all okay. So when I called and I reached this wonderful person who was so, and you have to, well, it was the middle of the night and I had already gone to bed and I was focused entirely on what was going to happen the next day. And so out of nowhere, I'm talking to somebody and they're asking me questions that I should reasonably know most of the answers to. However, at one point, this service person said, "Do you have the statements for the last 3 months of your billing?" And I said, I do. So I need to tell you something. And I explained what had happened. And I explained that I had moved and why I had moved. And that, of course, I have all of my documents. What I don't have is which exact box sitting under my desk now, the ones I didn't have to unpack immediately, those statements are in. Am I at my desk? Can I look up my online banking? I'm in bed. I'm in bed because I have an important meeting tomorrow with a lawyer. Oh, and then I'm sorry, says the voice. Did you just tell me that you are working through the after effects, the ripple effects of a death? And I said yes. And the person said, I am so very sorry. I am so very sorry. And let's make sure we take care of this properly for you. And I thought, well, that's her job anyway. But the tone and the intention and the complete shift in the way, still very businesslike, still very methodical, and still very sequence oriented, but there was that moment. And so we didn't just look at that transaction. She walked me back through 2 months, 2 full months of transactions. And we were able to pinpoint when the first one happened. And when I looked at that date, I'm thinking about it. I don't have anything in my hands that I can reference back. But when I focus on that date, I can almost exactly pinpoint when it must have happened. Because I had not ever let my card out of my hands except twice. And it was right after the first one that the little charges began happening, and they were very small at first. They were $5. But they were charges, and this rep, it was very good, has my entire life history basically up on their screen, and saying, so it appears that you work with this internet and phone provider. Are you also subscribing to this? And I said, no, I've never heard of it. And are you interested in these activities? No, I've never. And she said, it doesn't appear that that is the case. It appears that this is a break in your pattern. And I thought, well, thank God for somebody who investigates patterns, behavioral patterns. I do. And so it was very comforting. And the call lasted a very long time. I've had fraud alerts. Did you buy this? Is it correct? Yes or no? It's happened before. Never like this. Never ever like this. And when we finally got off the phone, and is that card canceled? Of course it is. Am I getting a new one? Of course I am. Will I have to get online and contact everybody that I automatically have my card, hooked up to? Of course I will. Is that going to be a nuisance? I'll tell you what it is. It's going to be a teeny weeny little bit of thing to do compared to, oh my God, what else might have happened. And and I was exhausted before I answered that call, took that call, made that call. I was completely disoriented when it was over, and looked at the clock and thought, I'm not going to get enough sleep to do the thing tomorrow well. So I put everything out of my mind, turned off the light, did my best to go to sleep, woke up thinking, oh God. And I knew I couldn't have coffee because I was going to get in the car. So there's no caffeine. Right. And drove and ran my errands and went to the law office. And uh, it's going to be uh, a hard day. I said, oops, hang on a second. There is a message that says, it looks like all your channels are read only, so you can't reply. Okay, everybody. I don't know where that message just came from. So I'm going to talk to Billy afterwards about shifting my channels from read only. So in the meantime, if you are responding and saying yay and hello and how are you, I will get back to you as soon as I'm done this video. I'll go back onto the platforms where they're seen and I'll reply. So thank you for whoever that message was. So back to this ripple effect. I walked in on time and told the lawyer what had happened to me. And I said, I want to apologize in advance. And the lawyer was very kind. And this was the senior lawyer in the firm. I had met with the junior partner 2 weeks prior to set things in motion. And this senior partner said, these things come when we least expect them, and especially when we're already overwhelmed. And he said, in a way, if it helps you, it was quite a gift you received. And when he said that, it was so crazy because, on Tuesday I'd had coffee and cake with mom and dad of one of my darling kids. And Georgia, she had said the same thing. No matter what happens, look for the gift. Her grandmother had told her that. And always look for the gift. You may not see it right away, but no matter what happens, there's a gift in it. So you can call it a lesson if you like, but good or bad, there is a gift, and the gift is always positive. So even if the lesson is terrible, the gift is always a gift. And when he said that, I said, oh my God. Because he said, think of all the things that could have happened. Think of all of the negatives that could have happened if you hadn't caught it, if you hadn't answered that call, if you hadn't taken the time. And he said, and now that you've told me what happened, that's a gift to me, because now I'm going to be much more careful in the way I explain everything to you, because I am aware that everyone who comes here, this is a brand new experience. You have no context in this situation. You may understand some of it, but I'm just going to assume that you are already overwhelmed, and what will help us both the most, what will be a gift back to me in the long term, is that you are able to ask any questions based on what I tell you. So did our meeting go longer than the time that was allotted? Oh, yes. And at one point he said, don't worry about the overtime. This was a very important thing that we did today. And, that was wonderful, because he could have been, well, so that's going to be an extra hour and a half on the bill. And I thought, I don't care if I was charged. I mean, it's what a gift that I wasn't, but it's not about that. It's about somebody feeling the ripple effects, and the ripple of the ripple effects. He felt mine, and he responded in kind. And so was that a better, more in-depth, more intensive experience? Did we do more? Did we take care of more? I hope so. What I know though, for absolute certain in the moment, is that I felt valued. I felt seen and heard and respected, and I felt um, safe because the circle closed around me to enclose and support me. The wherever that customer service rep was responding to me from, whatever country, whatever location, I felt the circle close around me and protect me, because that's the job. But it was more than the job. It was the human aspect of each of us in our little boats that begin to rock when we feel the ripples. And I have been, slightly bending my knees, riding the ripples, this very different set of ripples since last fall. And and they're changing. The ripples are changing. There are still elements of surprise. There are still people who I'm encountering who clearly left their brains in their other pants when they changed their clothes. There are still, it has come to my attention that some of you are cows. There are still people who are not really showing up. They're phoning it in. They're doing the least they can do. And and one of the things that I want to include in this conversation today, and so that, by the way, uh, when I finished that meeting, which went longer, as I said, and it was already 2 hour drive going and a 2 hour drive coming home, and the extra time with him and the exhaustion from the night before and not enough sleep and no caffeine, that by the time I got home last night and I walked in the door and I put my bags down and I put my keys down and I sat down, I said, well, I'll say goodnight now. I was done. Everything that I needed to do, that I had to do, was accomplished. The bigger thing in all of this was the fact that I realized I was reminded of a few basic things about life. Life is about surviving and thriving. Life is competitive. Life is, if you want to use the jungle analogy, it's a jungle out there. There will always be people who are looking for an edge, who don't care what happens and who they hurt. There will always be people on the other side who care deeply. And there will be people in the middle who don't care, one way or the other. As Alan said when we were having coffee and cake, 3 kinds of people in your audience, whatever your audience might be. They'll love you no matter what, they'll hate you no matter what, and they won't care no matter what. And so I realized that the ripple effect, as the lawyer said, your luck, your good fortune, the efforts of the universe on your behalf and on behalf of your friend, responding to you in kind when you were leaning in, when you were showing up, giving back to you measure for measure. The odds that you would have so many of the better, best, engaged, committed, loyal, talented, brilliant caregivers, the odds are astronomical. The odds that your legal situation, given all of the variables and the parameters and the mistakes that were innocently made, the odds that this could have been exponentially worse than it is for you are off the charts. The fortune that you're being surrounded by, and I'm not talking money fortune, but the great fortune, the good fortune that people are hearing you and seeing you and recognizing in you something of themselves. And we're not talking about mom. We're not talking about fame. We're talking about whatever the energy is that I give off. I am attracting energy in kind. Am I also attracting the slackers and the whatabouts and the, yeah, of course. Why? Oh, just because they're there. When you say, why did that happen to me? Well, you could have just walked in front of it. They didn't necessarily aim it at you. It just happened. You're not actually a victim. It's random chance. Those things do happen. However, if your energy is good and positive, the likelihood that someone will say, "Oh my gosh, here, let me help you," are greater than if you're a jerk. Really? I mean, and he said, everything that you're going through, you need to think about people's reasons for being there. You need to take a step back, even in the midst of your feeling that you have no time to do that. And here's the important part of that. The important part in this conversation about the ripples. Even when we don't feel we have time to take careful steps, we must take time to take careful steps. Rushing does not improve the process. Rushing ends up costing. Rushing ends up making it worse. We must take the time. We must look in the mirror before we head out into traffic. We must. We must ask the questions, even when we don't know what to ask. Ask the question by saying, I have no idea what to ask. Remember that I'm the new kid in the room. What should I be asking you? Because when a professional says, how can I help you? The honest answer is, I have no idea. And then they blink and say, oh, that's right. Okay, tell me your situation and I will focus in on what you probably need to know. And then it's up to us to say this and this and this and try and remember all the extraneous points, because we don't know whether they are extraneous or whether they matter. So in the midst of all of these things that were happening yesterday, he said, may I talk to you about your investments? And I said, of course. You can talk to me about anything. You're walking me through this. He said, I want to talk to you about the reasons people do things. He said, I want you to take a step back from your place in this situation. I want you to step away from client, and I want you to move your thinking process around to cause and effect, generally, big umbrella overview, cause and effect. Now, I'm telling you this is still ripple effect. This is still really important. Okay. If you have investments, and let's say you have them at a bank, let's say you have them at an investment agency, let's say you have them under your mattress, let's say you have them in a coffee can in the backyard. The people who know where your investments are, it's important to pay attention to the way they behave, to their patterns of behavior, and see if you can perceive their primary focus. See if you can see their intention. The desk sign says investment advisor. That's their fame. That's their job. That's what they do. In order to know that you're picking the right person to perform that function, you need to know who they are. How do you find out who they are? You have a conversation the way we are having a conversation today. Is it reasonable to assume that someone who works, let's say, at a bank and has been there for 30 years and the bank pays their salary, that the bank is their primary focus, their primary loyalty, and that they will be following the bank's rules and regulations and intentions and stated purposes in order to do the function that is stated on the sign of their desk? Or will they set everything aside and say, I'm here for you. I'm not the investment advisor for the bank any longer. I am your personal advisor. Is it likely they will do that? And I said, no. And he said, okay. The same goes true for, let's say, an investment agency. Do you know their policy? Do you know how their earnings are made? Do you know how the advisor's earnings are made? No. Would it be intelligent to ask? Would you then understand cause and effect before you make a decision? And I said, yes. Would it make sense to find out? He didn't say the phrase, but he said something so close it made me laugh. My grandmother used to say, yes, but who are his people? Would it make sense to find out his track record and ask for names of other clients and call them? Yes, it would. Is it likely they'll give you those names? No. Oh. He said, these are things to consider. And then he smiled at me very kindly and he said, probably not to consider today. I think you have enough on your mental and emotional plate today. And I want to know that you make it home safely, because if anybody deserves to be distracted today, it's you. And so I left that meeting with all of those thoughts churning around in my head. And the wonderful thing about driving, I've been driving for a very long time, and I've had very few accidents, and none of them my fault. Not even when you say, okay, but driver error, did you really think that he was going to stop? In both cases, when I was in accidents, I was unable to get out of the way. It was looming upon me. And when you see somebody coming in your rearview mirror and you're at a red light and the traffic is there's nowhere really that you can go except maybe to hurl yourself out the driver's door. It's no time. And undo the seatbelt and lock the door. It's no time. So as I drove home, I chose not to use the time to try and parse my way through everything that had happened. I basically just focused on the road. I focused on not accidentally veering into the path of an oncoming ambulance, or something. And when I got home and I parked safely, and I got out of the car and I, did the things I had to do in order to get into my apartment, and I sat down, and as I said, I put everything down, and then I sat down. I said, I'll say goodnight now, Gracie. Done. I said, no, I have a glass of wine. I'll have a bite to eat. And because I hadn't really had anything of any value in terms of sustenance that day. It was all this kind of thing. So the ripple effect that I want to summarize today is this. Energy is contagious. If you're surrounded by happy people, or if you're surrounded by people who are just in a normal, positive, upbeat, non-angry frame of mind, you don't feel the stresses. If you're falling asleep on a hot summer night and there is no mosquito in the dark in the room somewhere going, you're not stressed by that. The absence of stress gives you permission to say, oh, and relax. So the ripple effect of other energies is invisible. However, if we take the time to do a diagnostic, how am I feeling? Are my shoulders tight? Are my knuckles white? Is there a reason for it? Am I breathing shallowly? If we can do that, if we can just consciously say, like get in the car, and before you start the car, say, okay, next. And do those things. What we bring with us to the next ripple, to the next wave, to the next, brace ourselves for the moment, is less baggage. We effectively need to put the baggage down, out of the way, because it's invisible and we'll trip on it if we don't, so that we can take on the next baggage that comes to us. So being aware of the energy is really important. We don't have to wonder what everybody else is doing. We have to do our own diagnosis. How am I doing? Is there a reason why I'm feeling this way? I can't see it. Fine, then forget it. Just take that breath and brace ourselves, ready ourselves, flex and relax and lean in for the next thing. That's one use of the ripple effect. The other ripple effect is remembering to think about the cause and effect. Because as the ripple hits us and we can do nothing but respond, we are going to give a wake for the next people coming in their little boats. Ripples breed ripples, breed ripples. So we have to be aware of cause and effect. Not in the moment, perhaps, but in that moment when we take that breath. How was that? Am I okay? Am I grateful? Do I need to write anything down? No? Okay then. Next. So the ripple effect is how am I? The next ripple effect is what was that? The next ripple effect is do I need to write it down? Is it that important? And then when we reach a safe place, we can pull out of oncoming traffic. We can pull off to the side of the road. We can reach our destination. And then we can disengage from whatever that was and answer the phone. That ripple effect is multitasking. The definition, the Abbey definition of multitasking is doing many things badly. And the more we try to do, the worse we get. So the ripple effect today is that I shut down early. The ripple effect today is I wrote down everything that happened to the best of my memory. The ripple effect today is that before I started my video, I made coffee. The ripple effect today is that I made to-do notes to myself. The ripple effect today was in looking for a post to say, I'll be here, I hope you'll join me, was finding in my Facebook memories a picture of Darren Grantner and I at Ottawa Comic Con. And that year, in 2019, it fell on Mother's Day weekend. And Darren showed up on Mother's Day with a Mother's Day card for me. And it was sparkler, sprinkles, cherry, icing, cake moment. It was everything. And what he said to me and what he actually wrote in the post was that he couldn't be with his real mom. So he chose me. And I said, and it was very, very welcome. He referred to me then and he referred to me today as the most prolific mom in history. Happy Mother's Day to the most prolific mom. And in every way, that's just really funny. It's really sweet and it's really lovely. And I so appreciate it. So this is Mother's Day weekend coming up. And I'm not pitching and I'm not hinting and I'm not asking for, blessings from near and far. I'm just saying that this is a time to take a moment and do a diagnostic, because we are all mothering someone. We are all using our maternal instincts to say, there, dear, and hug them and love them in a way that is nurturing and cherishing. And it's not relegated to the female of the species. We are all mothering each other somehow every day. This just happens to be the weekend that we celebrated officially. But we all do it every day. And if we haven't reached out to the people who are being good to us, all the people who are being off the charts good to me, this is a great weekend to do it. And if you want to reach out to the most unlikely people and say, happy to my favorite mother, whoever that may be, it will be welcomed with open arms and a smile. I guarantee it. So, my gift to me, my selfish gift to me, that has been made possible by all these things that have happened, in the midst of all these things that have overwhelmed and traumatized and exhausted me, uh, the vehicle I'm driving, not mine, is starting to have significant issues. And I was mindful of that when I got on the highway yesterday. And I patted the dashboard and I said, "All right, little one, it's you and me today. Let's do this." And when I got back and I parked the car, I patted it again and I said, "Well done, little one. Well done. You are my favorite creature on the planet in this moment and forever." And then I went to my apartment. I'm very glad I did that inside the car where no one could hear me. Although if you looked, you could see my lips moving. Because if I had done it outside and somebody walked by in the parking lot. So what I'm doing, because I can, because of the timing, which has become incredibly propitious, is that I'm going to go this afternoon and test drive a car. I can't buy a car, but I can lease it. And perhaps later I can buy it. But I have been searching, and a friend said, "Why don't you check out this person? I think you will really be impressed." And so that is exactly what I did. And I had a long telephone conversation with the person. And I said to myself, the worst that can happen is I spend an hour and I drive a car and I walk away. That's the worst that can happen. Everything else is gravy. So that is my pre-Mother's Day weekend gift to me. That is my event. That is my moment. And I know that in leaning into it and getting ready to go and experiencing it, that is going to create all kinds of ripple effects. And there are lots of important decisions to be made that will mean the closing of some doors and the opening of others. And I am aware of that. So my decision today is going to be bittersweet in many ways. And that will be another starting of a ripple effect. And so I'm not taking on a lot of other things today. I am readying myself for this moment and cherishing it, whatever it brings. So when I sign off, as I sign off, how long have I been doing this? Oh dear, that's longer than yesterday. So I guess this was overdue. So to summarize and to talk about what's coming in the next few days, we have a busy weekend ahead of us. We have lots of moms. My advice to you, having worked in the hospitality industry, is don't go out for dinner on Mother's Day. Don't do it, because the restaurants will be overwhelmed by people who never do go out. And now they're going because they have to do something for mom, and mom doesn't want to go. So nobody's having a good time. They don't know what to order. And it is the most stressful day ever. So if you do go, be kind to your server. Be sweet and lovely and positive and complimentary to your hostess. If you see the manager walking around looking like he's about to leave this planet, thank him. Say today and this weekend, "Thank you for your service." Please do it. Do it at the flower shops. Do it at the candy shops. Do it at the bakeries. Do it at the liquor store. Do it everywhere you can stop and see people who are inundated and overwhelmed this weekend. And they will be forever grateful to you in that moment. It may sustain them. It may be the one thing that stops them from just saying that's it and walking out into traffic and causing the utmost damned ripple effect you ever saw. So be sweet and kind and gentle on this weekend. Hug your loved ones. Even if you no longer have a mom with you, hug someone else's mom. Hug anyone who cherishes you and nurtures you and moms you. They will love you for it. And after that, be good to you, because you are mom to someone too. Okay, so that's going to be it. I'm going to go back and find out why I'm on read only. I'm not going to find out. I'm going to ask Billy, and he will say, oh, magic wand, ping, fixed. And we will see each other next week. And I will update you on what happens at my car adventure this afternoon. I will share with you the ripple effect. Okay? Thank you for watching. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for telling your friends. Thank you for sharing the journey with me. Thank you for choosing to get into my little boat with me and riding the ripples. I am very grateful. See you soon. Bye-bye for now.